Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Thoughtful Thursdays. My name is Javier Cobos and you're watching The Lounge. I'm on vacation in the jungle next to almond bushes, getting this rich wood. Chilly day outside, you have a nice mug. Draw is a bit tight, but it's really pulling in a lot of flavor.
You're going to be able to travel to Orlando within an hour.
And they've got all these things where they could find out the information, but they want firsthand.
I came here in 1989 when I was 10 years old.
I had no idea about anything about the restaurant business.
Hello and welcome back to The Lounge. Hello, I am excited to welcome you back to The Lounge, especially today on Thursday, where normally we were doing Throwback Thursday before, and on Throwback Thursday we would sit down and read about past events that have affected society and or affected the future of many different communities. But I wanted to relate more with the present and things that are happening right now, so I did a reframing of what I'm really focusing on Thursdays, and I decided to shift my focus to things that are happening right now in the present, in the present, affecting communities nowadays. So Let's Talk has always been about bringing in different businesses, and I understand where the consumer you guys are right now, where you guys are watching me, and you don't really know what the lounge is supposed to be. I just did like a whole redesign. You see, this is why I like Throwback Thursday as well, because we could talk about things like this. I'm not constrained by what I want that episode to be, and I don't want to go and talk about things that don't really matter. You know, I'm still calling it Throwback Thursday. Thoughtful Thursdays is, more of like a, let's sit down and be mindful of who we are and where we're at. So basically, with the whole, redesign of the channel and everything, I want to open up to, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are about cigars. Monday is coffee and cigars. Wednesday is whiskey Wednesdays, where it's a cigar and whiskey pairing. And then Friday is Friday's favorite. But then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are not really cigar related. They're just things that could involve cigars at one point. Maybe Social Saturdays already did, because Gables Cigars is one of the shops on Miami Maps, which, if you guys didn't know, Miami Maps is a quick little plug for Miami Maps. You can follow them on Instagram. Miami Maps is the map that is available on Miracle Mile and in Coral Gables about all the different businesses that are there. So kind of partnered with them so that I could be able to get more interviews and get more content for the channel to share with you guys. And so every Saturday is a different business in Coral Gables. One, to provide some value to small local businesses that are, these are the backbone of America. And then also to get content to share with you guys. Marshall, the guy behind Miami Maps, I did an interview with him when I did the whole Social Saturday about Miami Maps. You could go ahead and watch that. It's in the playlist Social Saturdays. But he has been a lot of help in getting a lot of people to come in, or rather for them to allow me to go over to their business and have an interview and, create content about their business for you guys. So that's Social Saturdays. Thoughtful Thursdays is what you're watching right now. And then Let's Talk is, I want to have, interviews with small businesses in Coral Gables. I always wanted to do that. And yeah, I get some, aspect of who they are through that interview, or who the certain people are, but it's really about the small business. It's not so much about the person who created the small business. And that's what Let's Talk is. Let's Talk is a way for me to sit down and talk with the people behind it and get some insight into like how they are, who they think, and who they are really. It's more about them, not so much the business. And so that's Let's Talk, Thoughtful Thursdays, and Social Saturdays, 3. And then we have Coffee and Cigars, Whiskey Wednesday, and Friday's favorite. So it's literally half the show is about cigars, the other half is about the outside world. So I'm kind of laying down the thought process behind what this is supposed to be right now. That way you guys aren't as consumed as being the audience watching the show. And so wow, I really laid that out perfectly right now. I always wanted to talk to you guys about that, but I never really just sat down and explained it like that. I've been thinking about it for so long, and I finally just was able to just put it out there and get I think a good analysis of what I was thinking the show's supposed to be and where we're at. But now that that is over, let's go ahead and move into the current event that we're actually talking about today. Which last week I was on Instagram. As you guys know, you can follow at Gables Cigars at the Lounge.media on Instagram. I was on, browsing through the Instagram world when I started seeing these memes, these recurring posts about Altaria, and then other ones like Uncle Sam wants you to boycott Nat Sherman Cigars. And I was so perplexed. I was like, what's going on? Essentially what happened was Altaria commented on this whole thing that was happening with the FDA, and from what I could tell from the memes and what people were posting on social media was that Altaria sided with them, with what was going on with the FDA. They sided with the FDA in a bad way that would be bad for not just the consumer but small business. When I first saw this, and specifically the meme that's on screen right now, you don't have to worry about FDA regulations on premium cigars if you stab the cigar community in the back and they no longer buy your cigars. When I saw things like this, like, of course, Nat Sherman and Altaria, these huge grandfather companies that are, generation, 1 or 2 or 3 generations old, they have a lot of resources. They have money. They have already, and importantly, brand recognition in this community, which is a big deal. A lot of people stick with the Padrones because that's what they like, and they don't smoke anything that's not Padron, or they smoke the My Fathers, and that's all they smoke. So it made sense to me that they would side with that. But, I didn't want to just take it at face value. I did a little bit more research. So you don't have to dive deep to find the actual comment that Altaria gave. It starts off like this. Altaria, on behalf of its tobacco operating companies, supported the passage of the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act because it believes that a comprehensive regulatory framework can contribute to resolving many of the complex issues surrounding tobacco products. We support FDA regulation of all tobacco products, including premium cigars, because all cigars pose health risks. FDA regulation may nevertheless take into account the unique aspects and history of different tobacco product categories. Accordingly, FDA may regulate premium cigars differently from other cigars, so long as the differences are science and evidence-based and FDA applies objective criteria to allow for predictable and fair application of its authority. Whoa. Okay, let's take a step back there. A lot of legal, writing jargon that we need to analyze before we could really get a clear idea of what they're saying here. Essentially, Altaria just agreed with the FDA in terms of the cigar community and industry needs some more regulations. They justify this by saying that all cigars pose health risks. They also said that the FDA should take into account the unique aspects that make up the cigar industry and separates it from other tobacco communities like hookahs, cigarettes, vaping, those different communities, and take into account and the different, cultural and historical aspects of like what smoking a cigar is. And because they are taking into account the different histories, aspects, and cultural things that come with the cigar industry and community, they may, judge and regulate them differently from other types of cigars, like, the Cigarillo Dutches and the Dutch Masters cigarettes and the different type of tobacco products, so long as the regulations are science and evidence-based. So I'm not going to sit here and read you the whole docket. I'm just going to summarize different sections that I think highlight the real side that Altaria and Nat Sherman are taking with this docket. Section 2, titled, FDA should regulate all cigars, including premium cigars. So right there, right off the bat, if you only read the first paragraph, my buddy, right there, everything needs regulation. Section 3 says FDA has the authority, if certain standards are satisfied, to develop appropriate differential regulation that reflects the unique characteristics of the premium cigar category. So it's saying here that the premium cigars should be separated from the other cigars. Now you tell me, what's a premium cigar? The cigars that are kept and, care is made into them, and, well, no. And that's the problem. That there's no difference. I don't want to say that I completely agree with Altaria and everything that they're saying in this docket, but there is no real difference yet, and by law, I mean, there's no real difference. Like in whiskey, these specific categories, they're all have all these powers behind them that make sure that they work the way and they taste and they're made the proper way. Premium cigars, what is a premium cigar? Anyone can make a cigar and say it's premium. That's a big problem I think the cigar industry and cigar community is facing nowadays, and I think in that aspect Nat Sherman is right. So to develop appropriate differential regulation, so essentially create a separation between what regular cigars are and premium cigars are. If FDA pursues differential regulation, it should adopt a definition of premium cigars that is objective, allows for uniform application, and does not create loopholes that can be manipulated by manufacturers to avoid regulation. Any definition of premium cigars must be based on objective criteria that is not easily subject to manipulation, and also that any definition of premium cigars should not be based on price. But they are not done yet, and Section C says if the FDA pursues differential regulation, premium cigars still should be subject to certain fundamental elements of the FDA oversight, meaning there must be a registration of facilities and product listings, ingredient reporting, simplified process for product modifications, pre-market review requirements for modified risk claims, warning labels, marketing restrictions, enforcement authority for misbranded or adulterated products, HPHC testing. I have mixed feelings about this one because, you know, it is a tobacco product and people have this view, but there's a lot of like alcohol can give you liver cancer. Why isn't there a big warning label on beer, wine, and liquor saying that you could get those things? So essentially, those do have warning labels, but none, absolutely none of them, are as obnoxious and irritating and unpleasant to the eyes as the ones that go on the cigars across the seas and the cigarette labels everywhere in Europe. Like, there's nothing as unpleasant as seeing those, and everything else that has these regulations, none of them require that. I guess I'm a bit biased, but that one is very annoying to me, at least. Marketing restrictions. It doesn't really affect Nat Sherman because, well, they're Nat Sherman and Philip Morris, another company owned by Altaria, which is a huge cigarette one, I think, or just a big tobacco. I've heard their name thrown around, but they don't have a problem with marketing because they have the brand recognition. And then you have the warning labels, which, you know, affects them, but doesn't really affect them because everyone else has the warning labels too. So if it's a level playing field on warning labels, the marketing restrictions is definitely going to be a very bad for everyone else. And these are the regulations that I kind of very much disagree with. The other ones are kind of boring, but here are some that I do agree with. Ingredient reporting, I think that's just something that should be had. Registration of facilities and product listings. And then, of course, enforcement authority for misbranded and adulterated product. They go on to say that the FDA regulation of cigars must be predictable and fair. They go on to say that the FDA regulation of cigars must be predictable and fair. Well, yeah, of course you're going to say that. It should be predictable and fair, of course. But when you come in being the big daddy cigar company that you are, stomping on these small businesses, saying, here are some warning labels that, you know, you're going to be able to put on your thing, and it's going to take away from the art on your box, and then people aren't going to want to buy it. And then also saying, hey, at the same time, there's going to be some marketing regulations so that you can't market to the people that don't know about your brand, and they just keep smoking what I'm providing you. In my ideal world, it would be somewhere like the fine wines and the IPAs of the beer community, something where people can be enthusiastic and really, you know, get a lot from those things. And I think in some ways the docket that they gave to the FDA follows kind of this value, but at the same time, a lot of, obviously being who they are, they didn't really come at it from this point. They might be thinking of it in money. They don't really care. They're going to make their money anyway. At the end of the day, they're going to make their money anyway, and it'll be, and if they could just make it harder for other people to make their money so that they're buying money from us instead of, you know, the small new cigar brands and tobacco companies, then of course they're going to do that. And who could blame them? They're a big company with a lot of money, and they just want to make more money. And so they concluded by saying, "We appreciate the opportunity to submit these comments and hope FDA will consider them in developing any proposed rule for premium cigars and in determining how to regulate cigars generally. Sincerely, some guy that works at that place." That's about it, guys. So it was a long episode, I know. I don't think every Thoughtful Thursday will be this long, but this was a long piece of the moment that we had to break down and see what really happened. I gave you my thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. And of course, you can go ahead and subscribe and like the video. Follow Gables Cigars on Instagram for facilitating the creation of this episode. And if you are listening to this on a podcast, go ahead and favorite our station. And with that, we end the first ever Thoughtful Thursdays here on the lounge. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned until the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for Friday's favorite.